All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Get a thumbs up, head nod. I see a head nod. That'll work for me. All right. Thanks for being here yet again. Today I chose the topic of rotator cuff. So we'll dive right into that. Okay. First of all, it's rotator cuff. Okay, not rotary cup, rotator cup, anything like that. Okay, so it's rotator cuff. Okay, let's talk about the importance of it. As always, we're going to start with the anatomy. Okay, so there are four muscles to the rotator cuff, and we use SITS, sits, to remember them. Okay, so the first one we have is the supraspinatus muscle. Okay, so that means above the spine. So if you look right here, this is our shoulder blade. So this is our right arm. Okay, this is the shoulder blade coming down. This is your upper arm, your humerus over here. This is the supraspinatus. It is above the spine of the scapula, okay, hence supraspinatus. Then you have the infraspinatus muscle, okay. Infra means below the spine, so it's below the spine of the scapula. And we have the teres minor muscle. It also attaches to the scapula, comes over here to the humerus. All three of these muscles are considered external rotators of the shoulder. That's if your elbow's bent at 90 and your hand goes out away from you. That's external rotation versus this guy over here, this big one underneath the scapula, so underneath the shoulder blade. Again, heading into the humerus over here, that is the subscapularis. So that means below the scapula. Okay, so that whole thing is one big wide muscle. And that guy is responsible for internal rotation of the shoulder. Okay, all four of these muscles work together to, yes, rotate the shoulder, hence rotator cuff. However, one of their big functions is stability of the shoulder. So anytime our shoulder goes up over our head, where we're reaching and pressing, anything like that, these muscles work together with a bunch of other muscles to ensure that that shoulder stays tight and firm within its socket. Okay, the shoulder joint is actually a very loose joint. Picture a golf ball on a tee. That's essentially what we're looking at. Okay, so the head of the humerus over here is the golf ball, and then inside here there's a little tiny cavity with a, I'm sure you've heard of the labrum, that kind of attaches to this head of the humerus right here, and that little hole is about it's not exactly the same, but it's equivalent to a golf ball on a tee. Okay, so the joint is actually very, very loose. Without all this musculature and without that joint capsule, like we talked about a few weeks ago around it, that shoulder joint would be very, very loose, and it is very easy to dislocate. I mean, that's the joint you primarily hear being dislocated is the shoulder joint. So here's a side view of it. Okay, so we've removed the big old deltoid muscle. Okay, the deltoid muscle is the one that makes people look like they have bowling balls on the shoulders, right? So we've removed that big muscle from the outside of the shoulder. Now we're looking, from the side in. Okay, so we got a bunch of little bony prominences here. So here's your collarbone coming over. Okay, and then these are some bony things sticking out from the shoulder blade. These are very important. Okay, especially this ligament right here. This whoops, can't click when you do that. This coracoacromial ligament. Okay, this is actually a very firm ligament. And then this prominence right here, this acromion. Okay, so what I want you to see in this picture is you can see that supraspinatus right here coming up and over the top, right? So it's coming over here and then dropping down to the side on the top part over here. This is what we're looking at now from this view. Okay, so the primary function of this supraspinatus is to pull that head of the humerus into the shoulder socket, into the shoulder joint as you go to lift it. Okay, if it didn't do that, or if your supraspinatus is weak and you lift this arm up straight out sideways, you can see this muscle right here. This muscle, this tendon, this white part's the tendon, will not be pulling, it'll actually be pushing up, and it will get pinched underneath this little arch. Okay, we call this the coracoacromial arch, this whole mechanism right here. If your supraspinatus is weak, or if you have a possible tear in that muscle and you go to lift your arm up, you're going to get to a point where it goes ow, where it feels like it's pinching or a shooting pain. But then typically if you go a little bit higher, past that point of pinch or pain, and the pain kind of goes away, that's our cardinal sign that you have what we call impingement. Okay. So essentially what's happening there is that muscle has now cleared underneath this arch and it's no longer being pinched. And now we have like a more bone going through there as opposed to that muscle that's pretty sensitive to being pinched. Okay. Again, big old infraspinatus out here, nice and wide. Again, keeps the shoulder in place. Teres minor, it's another little guy. And then you can see the subscapularis from this angle on the inside, which pulls that shoulder into internal rotation. And then another little cool thing about this picture that I like is the long head of the biceps. So the biceps that everyone associates that, you know, the beach muscle that everyone flexes, right? It's right there on the front of the arm. One of the tendons actually runs all the way up through the shoulder and actually comes and attaches to that little socket. So a lot of times when our shoulder has a little bit of pain, it could be from our biceps tendon, okay? Okay, so here's some exercises. There aren't really any stretches that you really need to do for the rotator cuff. The rotator cuff is, you kind of want it to be a little bit tight. You want it to be firm. You want it to be solid to keep that shoulder joint in place. You know, you want it to stay where it is. So those muscles being a little bit tight are okay. And typically our muscles get tight because they're sitting in shortened positions. But our arms don't really just sit in shortened positions. Like the positions that it rests typically is an okay position, okay? Plus we're using our arms all day long. So those muscles are never really just sitting there, not doing anything. Okay, so the primary focus on rotator cuff is strength training. Okay, so I have a few exercises here and I'm gonna demonstrate these all in person so we can have a better look at them. But this is for anybody watching, you have a picture to refer to. So we have the external rotation. So the band is anchored over here and you're going to rotate the arm out. And then you're going to flip around with the band anchored over here and you're going to rotate the arm in. Okay, this one's called scaption. Without going into too much detail, essentially, there's not really any rotation of the arm going here. So this one really, really focuses on that supraspinatus muscle. But you can use this, do this with dumbbells, you know, with a band, whatever you may. But you're just going to lift it up and out to the side. But you can see here it's about 30 degrees to about 45 degrees from that plane that's parallel to your back. Okay, so it's slightly in front of you. The cue that I usually give when I teach this exercise is you should be able to see your hands if you're looking straight ahead. Okay, if you can't see your hands as you're lifting up, it's too far back. It should be right there in front of you where you can see both hands while looking straight ahead out of your periphery, okay? And then the other two exercises I'm going to show you, I could not find a picture of this one. I think it's just a newer exercise that I couldn't find an actual picture of, so I'll demonstrate that one. But this right here is probably one of my new favorite for shoulders and for rotator cuff, and I'll go through that one. But essentially what he's doing is he's pulling the band back, and then he's going to bring his arms all the way down and around like he's doing a snow angel, okay? And again, I'll go ahead and demonstrate that. And just a quick plug, I love these guys, the prehab guys. They're all physical therapists, but they do a lot of prehabilitation type stuff, which, you know, a lot of stuff that I go over is very similar, but these guys have a lot more of a production budget, so everything's a little bit more, you know, fancy and whatnot. But such good knowledge. So if you guys are on social media, you know, Instagram, give the prehab guys a follow. Trust me, you won't regret it. You're going to learn some new exercises that's like, wow, that's incredible. Other than that, I think that's the end of the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. Does everybody see me on the video now? Perfect. Okay, so let's go over these exercises. Remember. Okay, so internal, external rotation, those ones are super easy. Make sure everybody can see me. Perfect. So we don't ever want our elbow tucked up against the side when we're doing these, okay? We want a little bit of a space. If you have to take a towel roll, tennis ball, or something like that to tuck underneath so that you don't pull your arm in, that's cheating, okay? So we want that arm in a nice relaxed position, elbow at 90, okay? And then you're gonna grab your band. It's gonna be in front of you, and you're gonna rotate out about 45 degrees. Okay, that's all it is. Okay, this isolates the rotator cuff muscles. This really focuses on that infraspinatus and a little bit of that teres minor. Okay, so that's your external rotation. Then you have your internal rotation, exact same thing. It's just now the band's anchored on the other side, and you're gonna pull it into your belly button. Okay, again, trying to keep that space between your elbow and your side. Don't wing it. Okay, we're not doing chicken wing. We're coming here, fist to belly button, keeping that space between your elbow and your side. Okay, so those are the two starter rotator cuff strengthening exercises. And then I'm going to show you this scaption. Come on, man. So I've got a nice long band. We have these all throughout the facilities, okay? All different kinds of bands. I'm going to stand right in the middle so I can work both at the same time. I have my thumbs up, okay? And again, I'm right here, okay? So anywhere between that 30 and 45 degrees. We don't want it all the way out here, okay? That's too much. Right here, I can see both of my hands out of the corners of my eyes. And I'm going to go up, and you can't really go too high, okay? That's a functional movement. We're just pulling it straight up in that scapular plane, that scaption, okay? Really, really good for your rotator cuffs. The next one, let's do the snow angels. Again, this is one of my new favorites. You have the band anchored. I might have to kneel for this one. So you're going to bring the band up and back behind you, and then you're going to go snow angel. And I'm hitting my table over here on the right side. But we're keeping that band tight. So we're recruiting the rotator cuff muscles as we go through a full range functional movement of our shoulder, okay? So we're no longer just isolating the rotator cuff muscles. We're actually taking those rotator cuff muscles saying, hey, I need you to be strong throughout this entire range of motion, all the way up, all the way down to our side. Okay. Then the last one I have, so we're going to go back to this rotator, this external rotation position. Now you're going to take a little bit more resistance, starting in this position, and you're going to do an uppercut. Okay, keeping that elbow bent, you're going to do an uppercut. So the only movement is at the shoulder. Okay, don't extend your arm and go up. Okay, the elbow stays at 90 degrees, and you go up in that uppercut position. Okay, the band isn't in the right spot here, but the movement is this. Okay, and no, I'm not trying to flex and show off. I'm just showing the movement. So you see that? See how my elbow stays bent? The most common error I see is people going like this, and they'll want to straighten and push. Very, very different muscles to do that. Okay, so again, elbow at 90, uppercut. Okay. Any questions on rotator cuff? I see there was a question about signing in. Where's my phone? I'm going to take a picture of the list over here because I don't have the link to post. So as long as you're here and you're on this list, I see everybody's name. I will ensure you get credit for it, okay? If I have to send you an email to fill out a form, then I might do that. Otherwise, I have a picture of everybody who's here. 13 minutes, perfect. I'm killing this timing thing. Any questions on rotator cuffs? They are a lot more complicated than I made them sound. Hopefully I made them sound a little bit more easy to understand. But if you think you have any sort of rotator cuff issue, tendonitis, possible partial tear, anything like that, I'd love to take a look at it. Just let me know, shoot me an email. Otherwise, thank you guys very much for being here, and y'all have a great day.